After 20 years of marriage, my husband stood in our kitchen, holding a mug I bought him on our 10th anniversary, and calmly told me he needed a separation. Not divorce, not yet, just space. I remember staring at him, waiting for the punchline, but he looked serious, almost relieved. Then he rubbed the back of his neck and said something that made my stomach turn cold. "I booked a 2-week cruise." I blinked. "A cruise?" He nodded slowly. "With someone I met a few months ago." The room went silent. Our dishwasher hummed softly in the background like nothing had happened. He kept talking. "She understands me, Claire. I need time to heal, to reconnect with myself." Reconnect with himself, after 20 years, after 2 children, after I worked double shifts when he lost his job, after I stayed awake beside hospital beds during his surgeries, after I buried my own dreams so he could chase his. He wanted to reconnect with himself on a luxury cruise with another woman. I laughed, not because it was funny, because I honestly thought I might scream if I didn't. He frowned immediately. "I knew you'd react like this." "Like what?" I asked quietly. Emotionally. That word hit harder than the affair, because suddenly every sacrifice I had ever made became invisible. He had already rewritten our entire marriage in his head. In his version, I was the burden. He sat down across from me and sighed dramatically. "I didn't want to hurt you." "Then don't." Simple, easy, but instead he slid cruise brochures across the table. Brochures, like he expected me to help him pack. "She makes me feel alive again," he whispered. And there it was, the truth, not separation, not healing, excitement, ego, attention. He wanted to feel young again while I stayed home paying bills. I looked at the brochures carefully. Bahamas, private dinners, ocean view suite. He had spent more money on this trip than on our last 5 anniversaries combined. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. "I think you'll realize this separation is good for you too." That's when I smiled, a small smile, quiet, controlled, because in that exact moment I made a decision. He mistook my silence for weakness. That was his first mistake. For the next 3 days he walked around the house acting almost cheerful, humming while shaving, trying on linen shirts, ordering expensive sunglasses online. Meanwhile, I cooked dinner like normal, folded laundry, asked about the weather, and watched him carefully. People reveal everything when they think they've already won. One night while he slept beside me snoring peacefully like a man with no guilt, I opened our shared banking app, and my heart nearly stopped. He had been moving money for months. Small amounts at first, then larger ones, a separate account. Private hotel charges, jewelry purchases, cruise upgrades, thousands of dollars. Gone. I sat in darkness, staring at the screen while rain tapped softly against the bedroom window. 20 years. 20 years, and this man was secretly preparing his escape like I was an enemy, not his wife, not the mother of his children, an obstacle. I almost cried, almost, but then something strange happened. The sadness faded, and anger took its place. Cold anger, the dangerous kind. The next morning, he kissed my forehead before work, actually kissed me. "I know this is hard," he said gently. I nearly laughed in his face. Instead, I smiled softly. "You should enjoy your trip." His eyes widened, like he couldn't believe I wasn't fighting him. That's when his guard dropped completely. Big mistake. Over the next week, he started telling me everything. About the woman, her name was Vanessa, 42, yoga instructor, recently divorced. Very spiritually connected, according to him. Of course she was. Apparently she understood his soul. Meanwhile, I understood his tax returns, his debts, his blood pressure medication schedule, and the fact he cried during dog movies. Funny how mistresses always fall for the edited version, not the real man. The night before the cruise, he rolled his suitcase into the hallway and actually said this to me: "Maybe time apart will help us appreciate each other again." I stared at him for 3 long seconds. Then I said quietly, "Oh, I definitely think this trip will change our lives." He smiled. He thought I meant reconciliation. I didn't. The morning he left, I made him pancakes. His favorite, blueberry, extra butter. He looked almost emotional sitting at the table, like I was the loving wife sending her husband off to rediscover happiness. Meanwhile, I was mentally calculating exactly how long it would take to change every password he had ever used. At the front door, he hugged me awkwardly. "I'll call when I can. Don't rush," I replied sweetly. Then he walked outside, dragging his expensive suitcase behind him, and just before climbing into the taxi, he turned back dramatically, like we were in some tragic romance movie. "I hope you use this time to think about what you want too." I smiled politely. Then I closed the door, locked it, and stood there in silence. No tears, no breakdown, nothing, just peace. Pure, beautiful peace. Then I walked straight to my office desk, opened my laptop, and began. First, the joint credit cards. Frozen. Second, the savings account. Legally transferred into a protected account under my name only. Perfectly allowed according to the lawyer I had secretly met 2 days earlier. Third, the house. Now that part was interesting, because the house wasn't technically his. It never had been. My grandmother left it to me before our marriage, and thankfully I had never added his name to the deed. He always complained about that. Now I understood why. By noon I had organized every financial document from the last 7 years. By evening I had screenshots of every suspicious transaction, and by nighttime I had discovered something even better. Vanessa wasn't the first woman. Not even close, there were others. Different hotel receipts, different names, different dates. My hands trembled while scrolling through it all, not because I was heartbroken anymore, because suddenly everything made sense. The emotional distance, the criticism, the random gym obsession at 52, the late meetings. He hadn't suddenly changed. He had simply stopped hiding. At midnight, my phone buzzed, a photo message from him and Vanessa holding champagne glasses beside the cruise pool. Caption, "Starting my healing journey." I stared at the picture for a long moment, then zoomed in slowly, and smiled, because reflected in the glass behind them was another woman, wrapped around his arm, not Vanessa. Interesting, very, very interesting. I barely slept that night, not because I was upset, because I was busy. The next morning I called my daughter first. Emma was 26, smart, sharp, and unfortunately very aware of her father's nonsense. She answered immediately. "Mom," I took a breath. "Your father left yesterday." Silence. Then he finally did it. That hurt more than I expected, because even our children saw this coming before I did. I told her everything. The cruise, the woman, the separation speech. By the end, Emma sounded disgusted. "He's having a midlife crisis with Wi-Fi." I laughed so hard I almost cried. Then she became serious. "What are you going to do?" I looked around the kitchen slowly, at the family photos, at 20 years of memories, at the empty chair where he used to sit. Then I answered honestly. "I'm done protecting him." That afternoon I called my son too. Ethan was quieter than Emma, more emotional. When I explained the situation, he didn't speak for nearly 10 seconds. Then he whispered, "He abandoned you?" Simple words, but painfully accurate. Not cheated, not separated, abandoned. That evening another message arrived from my husband. A selfie on the beach. No shirt, sunglasses, trying very hard to look 30 again. "Hope you're doing okay." I almost admired the audacity. Then another message appeared. Vanessa had posted publicly. Apparently she loved sharing inspirational quotes online. Under their beach photo, she wrote, "Some souls are destined to find each other later in life." The comments were brutal, mostly her divorced friends cheering them on, but one comment caught my attention. A woman named Rachel wrote, "Does his wife know yet?" Vanessa replied with a laughing emoji. A laughing emoji. I stared at my phone for a very long time. Then I opened my laptop. Because if they wanted public behavior, I could absolutely give them public consequences. And suddenly I knew exactly what I was going to do next. First, I contacted a forensic accountant. Second, I contacted the best divorce attorney in the city. Third, I poured myself wine and finally admitted something terrifying. I no longer loved my husband, not even a little. That realization should have devastated me. Instead, it felt freeing. Like removing tight shoes after years of pain, the accountant called me 2 days later. And honestly, even he sounded impressed. He's been hiding money for quite some time. How much? A pause, then he gave me the number. I actually sat down because it wasn't just a fair spending. He had been preparing to leave me financially stranded. Secret investments, hidden transfers, cash withdrawals, and the worst part, he had started doing it right after my surgery last year, while I was recovering, while I could barely walk upstairs without help. I thanked the accountant calmly, then ended the call and stared at the wall for almost an hour. That was the exact moment something inside me died permanently. Not love, respect. Meanwhile, my husband kept sending vacation photos, cocktails, sunsets, fancy dinners. Every picture looked desperate, like a teenager pretending to have fun after a breakup. Then on day 5 of the cruise, I received something unexpected. A message request from Rachel, the same woman from Vanessa's comments. Her first sentence made me choke on coffee. "You don't know me, but your husband flirted with me on the cruise yesterday." I read it 3 times, then 5, then 10. Apparently while finding himself with Vanessa, he was already chasing someone else. Rachel even sent screenshots. My husband calling Vanessa emotionally intense. My husband saying he felt trapped. My husband asking if Rachel wanted private drinks later. I laughed so hard tears rolled down my face. 20 years, destroyed for a man who couldn't stay loyal for 5 days on a boat. Pathetic. Rachel apologized repeatedly. She genuinely sounded horrified once she realized he was married. Then she said something brilliant. "You deserve the truth, and honestly, she does too." She, meaning Vanessa. And suddenly an even better idea formed in my mind. I didn't contact Vanessa immediately. No, I waited, because timing matters when you destroy someone's fantasy. 3 days later, my husband finally called. The ocean sounded loud behind him. Music played somewhere nearby. He sounded drunk. "Hey," he said casually, like he hadn't detonated our marriage. "Hi." A pause. "You sound good." "I am?" That confused him immediately. Men like him expect devastation, not calm. He cleared his throat. "Vanessa and I might stay a few extra days after the cruise. Of course, why not extend the spiritual journey?" I smiled into the phone. "Actually, I have news too." "Oh, I hired a divorce attorney." Silence, complete silence. Even the background music suddenly felt far away. Then he laughed nervously. "Claire, don't overreact." Overreact. 20 years reduced to that word again. "I also found the hidden accounts," I continued softly. This time no laughter, just breathing, sharp breathing. "Then finally, you went through my private finances." I almost admired the confidence. The man cheats publicly but suddenly wants privacy. "I went through our finances." Another silence. Then his tone changed completely, cold, defensive. "You're trying to punish me." "No," I replied calmly. "I'm protecting myself." He muttered something under his breath, then came the real panic. "You froze the cards?" "Yes. You had no right, I had every right." He exploded after that, accusing me of being bitter, manipulative, cruel. And while he ranted, I simply held the phone away from my ear and waited. Eventually, he stopped shouting, then quietly asked the question he truly cared about. "How much do you know?" "Everything." But I answered differently. "Enough." And then I hung up. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. The next morning, Vanessa called me herself. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Her voice sounded polished, carefully gentle. "Claire, I think we should talk woman to woman." Woman to woman. Interesting choice considering she was sleeping with my husband. I stayed quiet. She continued carefully. "I know this situation is painful, but your marriage was already broken before I came along." Ah yes, the classic mistress speech. As if married men arrive emotionally gift-wrapped and abandoned, I leaned back slowly. "Did he tell you we were still sleeping in the same bed until he left?" Silence. Then what? "He also forgot to mention the hidden money." Another silence. Longer this time. "And the other women." Now she sounded genuinely confused. What other women? There it was, the crack. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. So I sent the screenshots Rachel gave me, every message, every flirt, every lie. Then I added hotel receipts from previous affairs too. 5 full minutes passed without a response. Finally my phone rang again. Vanessa sounded completely different now, not calm, not spiritual, shaking. He told me you were emotionally abusive. I laughed out loud, a real laugh. He also told Rachel you were emotionally intense. Dead silence. Then suddenly she whispered, "Oh my God," and right there I realized something important. She wasn't special, she was simply next in line. By evening my husband started calling repeatedly. 7 missed calls, then 12, then 20. Finally voicemail arrived. "Claire, what the hell did you do?" Behind him I could hear Vanessa screaming. I smiled slowly while drinking tea on my peaceful couch. 20 years of swallowing pain, and now it was finally his turn. The cruise ended 2 days early. Apparently paradise becomes uncomfortable once everyone starts yelling. My husband came home furious, not heartbroken, not ashamed, furious, because his fantasy collapsed. The second he walked through the front door I noticed something beautiful. He looked old, not distinguished, not refreshed. Old, tired eyes, wrinkled clothes, sunburn peeling across his forehead. Meanwhile I had slept peacefully for nearly 2 weeks. He dropped his suitcase loudly. "You humiliated me." I stared at him calmly from the dining table. "No," I replied, "you humiliated yourself." His jaw tightened instantly. "Vanessa left because of you?" "No," I corrected softly. "She left because of you." That made him snap. He started pacing, ranting about privacy, trust, marriage loyalty. The irony almost killed me. Then suddenly he stopped walking and looked around the house carefully, like he was seeing it differently. "Where are my things?" I took another sip of coffee. "In storage." His face went blank. "What?" "You said you wanted separation." "You can't kick me out." "I absolutely can." Then I slid the papers across the table. Legal separation agreement, asset investigation, financial records, every hidden account listed neatly. His hands actually trembled flipping through them. "You hired forensic accountants?" "Yes." "You're insane." "No," I said quietly. I finally woke up. That line hit him harder than anything else, because suddenly, he realized the version of me he depended on was gone. The forgiving wife, the exhausted caretaker, the woman who tolerated crumbs and called it love. Gone. He looked around desperately, as if trying to locate control again. Then came the saddest part. He cried, actual tears, not because he hurt me, because consequences finally arrived. And honestly, that made me feel nothing at all. 3 months later I finalized the divorce. The judge was surprisingly unimpressed by my husband's excuses, especially once the hidden finances appeared. Turns out courts don't love financial deception. Who knew? He lost far more than he expected. Money, reputation, friends, and Vanessa. Apparently she started dating a divorced architect 2 weeks after leaving him. Honestly, good for her. Meanwhile, my husband moved into a tiny apartment across town. Emma described it perfectly. "It smells like regret and microwave dinners." I nearly choked laughing. The strangest part came afterward, though. Peace. Real peace. No tension in the house, no criticism, no walking on eggshells. I started sleeping deeply again, started reading books, started listening to music while cooking. Tiny things. But after years of emotional exhaustion, tiny things felt revolutionary. Then one evening my doorbell rang unexpectedly. It was him, standing there holding flowers. Of course, men like him always come back once reality arrives. He looked nervous, smaller somehow. "I made a mistake," he whispered. I looked at him quietly. At the man I once would have destroyed myself to keep. And I felt absolutely nothing. Not anger, not love, nothing. That terrified him more than hatred ever could. "I miss us," he said softly. "No," I replied. "You miss being loved without earning it." His eyes filled instantly. Then he whispered something almost too quiet to hear. I thought you'd wait for me. And there it was, the truth. He genuinely believed I would stay frozen forever while he explored other women and found himself. I smiled sadly, then looked him directly in the eyes. I found myself too, and before he could answer, I closed the door, for good.